We're going to head into the college football recap of week one. A lot of great games, a lot of upsets. Not necessarily upsets, just really close games. Got to really see the measure of teams, where teams kind of are, and things like that. So we're going to lead off with Florida versus Utah.
Which was big game. Utah goes in there, top 10 team. Everyone kind of knew it was going to be a big game. Utah, a lot of people's pick for winning the whole thing or getting to the playoffs, winning the whole Pac-12, and that just didn't happen. I mean, this guy Anthony Richardson put the team on his shoulders, and no looking back. I mean, he had that spectacular fake pass where he jumps up, fakes it, spins around, and then scrambles to the outside, hits the guy on the dot in the end zone. And that guy is responsible for almost all Florida's points. Their atmosphere was, second to none over there.
I think basically what I don't know. Generally, what I got from this game is that Florida is, not even Florida in general. I think more so the SEC is the SEC at the end of the day. You could have all these recruits come into obviously Utah had a great recruiting class this year. They're ranked to be really good, obviously, trying to, getting into the playoffs. But I think generally speaking, it's kind of like, they're kind of the big fish in a small pond. And, Florida is, I'm sure if Florida was in the Pac-12, or not the Pac-12, what are they?
Yeah, the Pac-12, yeah.
I'm sure if Florida was in the Pac-12, I'm sure they'll run the table there.
But I don't know about all that. I think this is a case of, they Florida played at home. You have home field advantage for a reason. Right. Florida made good use of their home field advantage. I seen things about how if this game was to be played again, Utah would still be favored, even though they just lost to them, because they wouldn't if they played on a neutral field. That it's not the same, and going into Gainesville, the Swamp has that reputation of eating those opponents where it's a big time matchup. Right. Fans are into it. The electricity in the stadium is just, it's too much, and so you have to be better, right, even more to beat them over there. So either way, two good teams. Utah,
Utah is still a promising
exactly.
team. It's not
Utah,
like they had a bad.
Utah.
I think that was their biggest test.
Utah could easily run the table and make the playoffs still. So still nothing bad for Utah. But yeah, Florida looks to be on an upward trajectory. Like last year's Florida team, you can't just drop them in the Pac-12 and have them smoke everyone. It's just not happening. Like, they clearly put things together now with Billy Napier. They had a huge recruiting weekend over there. Tons of recruits there for the big matchup. So, yeah. But what a game. It was a close game. Came down to the end of the game, and Florida pulled it out. We also had the other crazy game. That Sunday night LSU Florida State game. Yeah, that was a back and forth battle. Florida State looked pretty good. Their quarterback clearly improved from last year. They had a few things going. One of the things they had going was Brian Kelly just couldn't get that team to do anything right, man. They muffed 2 punts. You know what I'm saying? Oh man, it was just a mess for LSU. Two blocked kicks, man. Talk about losing a game on special teams. That was crazy. Their quarterback Jaden Daniels, I'll say this. He looked like he couldn't throw the ball for anything, but he could scramble and get away from anybody. He looked like untouchable as far as all his plays, he was dropped back, clearly trying to pass the ball.
Right.
And the play starts breaking down, and he just scrambles and runs, and he picks up first down after first down after first down. So in a weird way, it's like, oh man, this guy was really good. He was like they showed the stats of the yards at one point. I think it was like going into halftime. The guy had like 95, 98% of the yards for the team. So he looked great on that standpoint. But also, when you have those wide receivers there in LSU and you're not getting them the ball, I don't really know what you expect. You're not using your strength, and it showed. And the special teams blunders, I mean, that came to haunt them. I mean, they come back after that last second drive, which was amazing. They throw the touchdown.
What do you think? Me personally, I feel like if I'm a new coach into a new program, especially Brian Kelly going into LSU, has this whole new way of doing things where you wanna try to leave an impression on your program. It's kind of like what Brandon Staley did last year with the Chargers. Like, people were upset that they kept going for it on fourth and whatever, but it shows that, okay, we're here to win games. We're not shying away from that. So I think with LSU, it's kind of like, obviously you're not in the state of mind of like, we're going to win a championship this year. But I mean, if you're in a new program, you're a new coach, and you want your kids to believe in you, why not go for two? Live with going for two, but at least your kids know that, okay, our coach believes in us. And it's like, bro, in halftime, this guy's talking about, oh, well,
we couldn't play any worse. Like, and they almost proved that wrong. I mean, outside of that final drive where they throw the touchdown to end the game, yeah. I mean, they pretty much did play worse. And then, they throw the touchdown to pretty much push it to overtime, and they could either go for two, right, which probably should have been the thing to do at that point. You had them you have the momentum. You had them on their heels. You were playing a garbage game the whole rest of the game where nothing was going your way.
What do you have to lose?
Yeah, go for it. And if you lose, at least nobody could be mad at them if they would have went for it and they didn't get the 2-point conversion. It would have been, oh my God, an amazing touchdown to end the game. They went for two. And they just couldn't convert. Oh, man, that's a heartbreaker. That's a heartbreaker for LSU after they muffed 2 punts and had a blocked kick before. But instead, they kicked the ball.
And their special teams coaches.
Yeah, they get that kick blocked. And, yeah, just sad for them. I mean, I guess, moving on to the next game, another big matchup, that Notre Dame-Ohio State game. That's another one similar to the Florida-Utah one. Tons of recruits there. You had LeBron James in the house. You had Jason Tatum in the house. You had tons of NFL guys. Joe Burrow there. Huge recruiting weekend. Like I said, tons of top recruits from all over the country for, this upcoming recruiting class, which is, the 2023 class, as well as 24, 25. I mean, they just completely stacked it. And, that. On one hand, the offense clearly seemed to need some work, some more time to gel, but that defense, which has been the major concern for them and been a letdown the past few years, clearly they came out to play and, holding Notre Dame to 10 points for the entire game. That's, if you would have told people before that game that Ohio State was holding them to 10 points, I think a lot of people would have thought, okay, if they're going to do that, then they're solid. They fixed their issues to be a real national title, contender with a championship level defense. The only part they didn't fulfill was the offense, which, when you look back at the game, all new receivers after JSN is out, he's injured. They're not sure when they're getting him back, but they're not going to rush him back with two easy layup games next. So that offense will be fine though. Everything will get right and they'll be good. So
as far as Notre Dame, what do you think as far as how they kind of rank in the country? Although they did lose 21-10, it also does seem like they played way better than what they usually play like, and it seems like they want. So see, that's the difference. It's like you have Brian Kelly in LSU, and it's kind of crazy because he obviously coached there, but it's like you have Brian Kelly in LSU, and then you have where it's like not that kids are they look lost out there, but they certainly don't look together. And I'm sure if you match that LSU team up with Ohio State's blowing them out of the water. But the difference is, I think, obviously, I think Notre Dame's head coach is obviously a player's coach, but I think generally speaking, it's more so you could see that players want to play for this guy, and you can see that he believes in his team, like he believes in his team. So that makes a significant difference. So I don't know. I think I'm not sold on them being maybe a playoff team, but I'm sold on them at least making like an argument for it. I think another big test is going to obviously be Clemson. That's further down the line, but I don't think that I don't think they're just a walk. I don't think they're a bad team.
Yeah, I mean they were ranked number 5 for a reason. I mean that was probably a tad bit high. But they came out. They credits Notre Dame. They played a good game, and they were up to start the game, and they made it close. And it wasn't really till later in the game when Ohio State was able to pull away and then really put it out of reach towards the very last drive. So credit to Notre Dame, and like you said, those guys they want to play for Marcus Freeman, and they showed it. I guess moving on, we had a few more games. Cincinnati, Arkansas. I kind of felt like Arkansas is a bit underrated this year. Rough game as far as offensively. Didn't score a ton of points, but they did enough to get the win, even though they showed some flaws in their secondary. So, but yeah, they were able to beat ranked Cincinnati. That Houston UTSA game. Yeah, that was a great game. Overtime, was it like quadruple overtime or?
It was like
I don't even know.
Maybe.
Yeah, it was a back and forth game. They had that weird 2-point conversion rule where after the first 2, it's 2-point conversions, just screwing it. A lot of sports bettors who pick Houston to cover the spread. But still, man, what a game! And Houston is bright future as far as this year goes. That might be, their toughest game on the schedule. Certainly one of their toughest games on their schedule, and a lot of people's dark horse pick to make a New Year's Six Bowl. So, crazy to see Houston pull it out. Also crazy to see UTSA drop it though. After last year, they were just pulling games out late like that. Last year, that they would have won that game. So on one hand, it shows they still have a little bit of that in them still. But yeah, on the other hand, good job by Houston to pull it out. We had the absolute destruction of Oregon this week.
Oregon is just
Oregon made Stetson Bennett look like Peyton Manning at Tennessee or something. I mean, Jesus Christ. I mean, I think this is a case of Oregon being way overrated. I mean, a new coach, a defensive coach in Dan Lanning, coming from Georgia, looks up to Kirby Smart. He's one of like his mentors, and Oregon, they have some decent players. They have some guys that are gonna be high draft picks, but this is just a situation of too soon. I mean, you throw them in against a team like Georgia, who everyone says, oh, they lost too many players to the NFL draft. Okay, yeah, and the guys who are playing now are going to be drafted just like the guys who went before them. So they proved that they could reload, similar to teams like Alabama and, the Ohio States and Clemsons do similar things as well sometimes. But Georgia clearly proved they could just reload, and they took it to them. A lot of people were saying the offense was probably going to lead the charge, and that kind of was the case there. And then you have Bo Nix. Yeah. Bo Nix was just awful.
I think, but that's the problem too. It's like when you rely so much on doing what you're not used to and doing what you think is effective, you kind of put yourself at risk to lose in such a dramatic fashion, because it's like you're planning to move, in some cases with certain offenses in college, you have to be able to move vertically rather than moving like laterally. It's like you can't move laterally with the athletes that Georgia has.
Yeah.
If Georgia has crazy athletes, it's the same thing with Alabama. It's like, why are you playing, 5 wide and an empty back formation when Georgia's front line, one, is going to be able to get to the quarterback extremely fast. You try to spread the ball, regardless of however wide you set your receivers, whatever the case may be, laterally, they're going to be able, like, their athletes are.
Yeah, you
superb.
can't you can't use
you have to stick to your identity and stick to what you know rather than what you think can actually beat them.
Yeah,
so
like those little screen passes to the side, or getting the best guy in your team to get in space against them. It's tough, man. You can't out athlete them. But it also, to Oregon's defense.
Right.
I don't even know if it's their defense. I mean, I just don't think there's anything they were going to be able to do. I think
Georgia's a powerhouse.
I think they could have for sure played better, but I think they end up losing almost no matter what. But
I was gonna pick Oregon to win that game. So.
I had some
I
had them Oregon with the points against the spread because I wasn't sure about Georgia's offense, but
49-3 prove you wrong.
Yeah. I was like 16. No. I think it started off at 16. It might have ballooned up similar to the Ohio State Notre Dame game, like 17.5 or something like that, 18. I don't remember now, but yeah, they covered easily, But yeah, we had that West Virginia Pitt game, that backyard brawl. That was a great game.
That was early on in the week, right?
Yeah, that was the first game to kick off the whole year, and that game didn't disappoint. Huge rivalry game. Crazy energy, and I mean, West Virginia came to play. It just wasn't enough. Pitt was able to pull out the win. I thought West Virginia. I took West Virginia with the points. Mm-hmm. I got them at 7.5, so they covered. You got them at 7, then it was a push. But yeah, they covered for me, and I thought West Virginia had a chance to win outright. And it had a few things go their way. They might have been able to, but Pitt handled their business. They showed why they were a ranked team, and yeah, I mean, we'll see where it goes from here. I mean, it was a rough game, first game of the year. Both teams have, a lot more time to gel and get things right. And
I think that was kind of a narrative of this week.
Yeah, I mean, week one, there's no preseason. There's no preseason in college football, so these kids, they don't scrimmage like NFL teams. You scrimmage with other guys. I mean, it's rough. So all of them say like the biggest growth on your team is from week 1 to week 2, because that's where you get to see what you did. You get to go in the film room, show everyone what they did wrong, show where they can improve, and then you can do it, and you have something to measure yourself against. You could go, oh yeah, last time I did this and it was wrong, or I was trying to do this too much. The coaches are on it. They do their jobs, and this is where you get to see that improvement. We had that Penn State Purdue game.
Penn State almost lost that. No?
They did. They almost lost, and I picked Purdue to win. Penn State came out on top. It was a rough game. I mean, Sean Clifford, man, this guy just, he gives the ball up too much. He's a veteran quarterback, but he gives the ball up too much. That pick 6 that he threw, that guy took it to the house. The cameras cut it on him. My man was throwing up on the sidelines. They caught him, zoomed in on him, just letting it out. That was a crazy shot. I seen replays of that video all over the place afterwards. But yeah, I mean, good for Penn State. They found a way to pull out the win, and at the end of the day, that's what mattered. We got both of those North Carolina games. Both of them went on the road. North Carolina at App State, North Carolina State at East Carolina. Man,
North Carolina, App State. App State, how do you drop that last, I mean, that game is just a shootout from the beginning. I mean, man, kudos to whoever took the over in that game, because over 120 points, it's kind of, that's like insane.
Yeah, and Mac Brown, that guy doesn't disappoint, 70-something years old, dancing around in the locker room.
Keeping them young.
Yeah, for
but,
sure.
I mean, they had a good game. I think Appalachian State obviously could have stretched it out a little longer, maybe, kid's arm just gave out on him. You put up 61 points. Eventually, you're gonna get tired. It's like pitching a 90, pitching a 9 inning game, and eventually you're gonna get tired. So I think that's what just set in, kind of overthrew him. Moment got too big for him, and North Carolina came up on top.
Yeah.
And, you have North Carolina State and East Carolina, which was a pretty solid game. There's a lot of close games this week. There's a lot of close games and a lot of, there is there wasn't too many blowouts, but just a lot of close games. So.
Yeah, I mean the other blowouts were those kind of week one, Power 5 team going against some FCS team that nobody heard of. And you had plenty of that going on. You had another. This is a bit of a weird game, that Clemson Georgia Tech game. That was the Monday night game. Clemson won by a lot, but they didn't look very good doing it, and they didn't really pull away until much later in the game. So Clemson did what they needed to do. They got the win. If you look at the box score, it looks like, Clemson handled business as usual. If you watch the game, you probably wouldn't see it that way. So Clemson has some work to do. DJ Ukulele is he's kind of on the hot seat. I mean, he didn't do well last year. We've heard all off season about he slimmed down, he's faster, he's taking things more serious. He's our guy. He's the QB, but
all that doesn't matter.
Yeah, that doesn't matter. I mean, Cade Klubnik played a little bit, and he kind of showed what he has in the tank, and it seems like
I think
DJ just really needs to perform to keep that job, because they'll throw in Cade Klubnik.
Yeah, and I think part of the problem is you don't put in your backup for him to throw passes, and when you're up 30 against Georgia Tech, and obviously I think Dabo wants to see what he can get out of him, see how he flows in the offense, how things run with him in there, and some guys gravitate towards other quarterbacks. Some guys just play better. Some guys just want to play a lot better with other quarterbacks. Some people are just tired of what are we trying to figure out with this kid? He is what he is. I don't think that's the case with DJ. I think, obviously they have patience with him if they're sticking with their guns, saying that, he's the starter. But I just think at some point it's more so if you're letting your backup throw on, first down situations, second down situations, kind of obviously you're trying to see trying to measure what's going to go on. So,
yeah.